Today, I'm going to show you how I use AI for a massive archiving project and how it saved me months of work in a way that can hopefully help you. My name's Sambhava. I'm a Buddhist monk. And for my purposes, our Sangha has a 20-year history where we've given hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Dharma talks that have just been sitting in an archive, and no one knows what to do with them, and no one knows what information was in them. So a couple of years ago, ChatGPT came out, and I had a really big seeing that this is something that could really help me in this project of digitizing and archiving all of this great stuff in our Sangha history. So in this video, I'm going to go through exactly how I use AI and every step of the process and how I've cobbled together a couple of different tools for a couple of different purposes that will hopefully help you. Now, I realize the irony of recording a video about AI. It's April 2025 right now, and how this might all be different 6 months from now. The rate of change and trajectory of this is so massive. But nevertheless, I think this will be really helpful for you or someone who's just interested in ways that you can use AI, especially to process tons of data and organize it in a very compact, concise way. So let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen and show you a couple of tricks I picked up along the way. So the first app I'd like to introduce you to is an app called Cockatoo. This is a web app, and it's the best one I've found for doing the first step of my journey, which is how do I convert MP3s into a more useful format for archiving? So in my case, our Sangha has a 20-year archive of Dharma talks, and it's probably about 1,200 talks at this point, in between talks that my teacher has given, talks in the 3 years that I was an abbot of our spiritual community, and then also a couple hundred talks that my teacher's teacher had given. So I set myself up with a big, audacious goal of I wanted to get all of these in an archived format. And the first thing I need to do is figure out how to convert them from MP3. So Cockatoo is a great app. And what we do is at the end of our Dharma talks now, which are usually recorded on Zoom, usually I have an audio file, or sometimes I'll just have a voice memo on my phone if we're out in nature somewhere, is I'll take the voice memo and I'll drag it into Cockatoo. And about a minute, 90 seconds, 2 minutes later, it'll process the file and convert it into a text transcript. It also has gotten much better in the year since I've been using it on identifying different speakers and also accuracy of the translation. So while this is converting, I'll just pull up one that's already done for you here. So this is a Dharma talk from earlier today, and it's about an hour and a half long. So I have the transcript after it's done running. And you can see in here, it doesn't get everything perfectly. This was an all song satsang. It's thought it was an all song assassin. But by and large, it actually gets it pretty right. So if I'm not in a hurry, I'll take some time and maybe edit the transcript. But often case, because I'm usually just summarizing the transcripts, I'm okay with a couple of typos here and there because the spirit of what it captures is actually going to be maintained when I plug it in to summarize. So from here, I'll do an export. I'll usually do an export into a text file, and you'll see that there's a couple different options that they've improved actually over the last couple of months, and including the one including speaker names. So it's very good at actually determining who is the speaker in cases where there was multiple people speaking. And I've also run this on a bunch of audio files, some of which had pristine audio quality, some of them which were a muffled, windy iPhone that was far away from the speaker. And it actually picks those up pretty well. So the technology has gotten very advanced, and I haven't yet met a transcript. It wasn't able to give me something at least that was pretty close. So I'll start in Cockatoo. I'll export the file. You can do multiple files at once. I found that when you give it more than about a dozen at a time, it starts to get a little confused. So I'll spend, in my case, a couple of months running about 10 at a time. I just do a couple each day, and then basically I've built up a massive archive of different text files. So my next stop of the journey is ChatGPT. And in ChatGPT, I'll use actually a very simple prompt. I could probably make this more interesting, but this does the job. So in this case, I have my transcript, comes out as a text file. I'll just copy everything in the transcript, and I'll just ask it to summarize the key points of the transcript below. I'll give it the entire audio, hour 25-minute file, and hit return. Now, ChatGPT doesn't do audio files directly yet. I'm sure at some point in the future it will. And the nice thing about this too is you see the memory updated. I pay for my version of ChatGPT, which I highly recommend. The nice thing is that it keeps the memory, so it actually gets better the more you do this because it starts to recognize themes and it gives it better context from the other information that you give it. So once the transcript goes in, I'll actually just copy the whole thing, and you'll see that it broke up this hour and 30-minute talk in just a couple of thematic points, a couple of bullets for each steps, and it captured the next steps beautifully. So this is great. So if I want to know 10 years from now what was at the April 5th satsang, I have this now in an easy to understand format. So I'll copy this, and then I'll take the third step of the journey where I'll go into a transcripts doc where I put in every transcript. So this becomes kind of like a searchable archive. And in this case, just for the talks this year, I make a new header for the talk for today, hit return, hit paste, and now I have all of the information I have for this talk. So I do this for all net new talks now because it's an easy part of the process, and it takes me like 2 minutes at the end of a talk to do this now. But over the course of about 3 months, I went back and retroactively did this for all 1,200 talks in our archive. So it took me, doing a little bit each day, about 2 months, 2.5 months. But this is a project that would have been probably a lifetime project just 3 years ago. And in just a couple of months, I was able to do it in ChatGPT using Cockatoo. So this is the amazing part of technology. I can't even imagine what's going to be possible like a year from now. But this has been an unbelievable gift because it takes all this information, all this content. It's like having this huge library of information, but you can't access any of the information in it. And suddenly I have this way to like get everything that I need in a way that's easy to understand and easy to work with. The other really cool thing you can do with this, once you have this information compiled, is that I also use NotebookLM a lot, actually, to actually give additional insights on the content in here. So in this case, I might take my doc that has every transcript that we've done this year, and I can actually plug that into NotebookLM. And what NotebookLM is really great at doing is uploading a source, and I'll let it upload for a second, pretty quick. And it will do the same thing. So it'll give me summaries. I like ChatGPT summaries a little bit better, personal preference. But they give you a lot of information and cool stuff you can generate here, which I'm sure you can do in other apps too, but you can do a mind map. You can ask questions of the archive, things like that. But the thing I use it for is this deep dive conversation to hosts, where when you click generate, it takes about 5-10 minutes to run. This will actually generate a 2-host podcast that will talk about whatever content you give it. So it's really fascinating. So I did this when I was done with my first Sangha transcript project. I transcribed 15 years worth of satsangs, plugged it in, gave it the summaries, and then I fed the summary doc into NotebookLM, and it actually generated a 15-minute podcast that actually told me the history of our Sangha through the teachings. And it was really fascinating because it picked up on actually some really cool insights that's just a different way of hearing something that you experience. And it was a really fun exercise. And I recommend totally playing around with this because especially when you feed it a lot of content, it's really interesting in how it picks it out. And there's something very fascinating about how it plays it back to you that I think gives some insight on the information. And this is a trick you can also do in ChatGPT. It won't generate a podcast like this, at least not yet. But because you saw that it actually does the memory updating, you actually get some really interesting information about your content over time. So something I can do in ChatGPT is, for instance, I've fed it, 20 years of Dharma talks about enlightenment. I would say, based on what you know about me, how would you describe my feelings towards enlightenment and what it is? Let's see what it says. This is cool. I like this already. Deeply relevant, deeply reverent, yet earthbound, a collective and evolving flame, multidimensional and multilineage, integrated with real life, precious yet accessible. In short, I'd say to you, enlightenment is a living transmission, sacred, embodied, and ever unfolding, meant to be practiced in real life and carried forward collectively with clarity, reverence, and love. Very good description. I did this same exercise in October when I had just done huge project, and it gives you a little bit different answers each time, which I like too. So let me flip over and actually read you what it said in the last one, which I felt like summarized things very nicely. So here's the answer it gave me when I fed it the same prompt last October when I first finished this tranche of uploads. My prompt was, based on everything you know about me from my uploads, how would you define enlightenment and my core spiritual ideas? Enlightenment. For you, enlightenment is not a remote or abstract state to be achieved through traditional monastic practices, but rather a dynamic, living experience that unfolds in the midst of everyday life. It's a process of deep personal and collective awakening that integrates spiritual wisdom with modern realities, balancing career, creative expression, relationships, and the ever-evolving challenges of modern society. Pretty good so far. You view enlightenment as a holistic transformation where one aligns the inner world with outer action. It involves not only deep meditative insight, but also the practical mastery of various aspects of life, such as career development, technology, and self-mastery through practices like meditation, martial arts, and mindful living. This blend of the mystical and the practical reflects your view of enlightenment as a continual state of learning and adaptation. Core spiritual ideas. 1. Collective wisdom and Sangha as a path. Central to your spiritual framework is the idea that the Sangha, spiritual community, is the heart of awakening. Enlightenment is not a solitary pursuit, but is amplified by the energy of the collective. The idea that the Sangha is the new Buddha suggests that in today's world, the community of practitioners itself embodies wisdom, offering support and guidance through shared growth and collective leaps forward. Great. Number 2, integration of ancient wisdom with modern life. Your teachings fuse ancient Buddhist principles with modern experiences. You emphasize that spiritual practice can and should be woven into one's career, technology, and creative endeavors, especially in environments like Silicon Valley. Enlightenment is accessible in the flow of daily work, creativity, and innovation. 3, self-mastery and diverse pathways to enlightenment. The mandala concept you often reference symbolizes a diverse array of paths where different practices, from meditation and career success to physical practices like martial arts, are all valid avenues to awakening. Enlightenment, for you, is not limited to one path, but can be accessed through a network of practices that foster self-realization. 4, apprenticeship and embodied learning. A strong thread in your spiritual narrative is the role of apprenticeship with an enlightened teacher. Your own journey involves studying under a teacher for many years, and you place great importance on this direct transmission of wisdom. The teacher-student relationship is a core element in how enlightenment unfolds, as you have experienced firsthand through your years of mentorship. True. 5, mysticism in everyday life. The mystical dimensions of seeing, setting intention, and balancing the tonal and the nagual, first and second attention, are also key. These subtle, often hidden realms of experience are integrated with practical life, illustrating your belief that mysticism is present in the everyday. Your view of enlightenment blends personal insight, collective support, and practical mastery, offering a unique model that is deeply spiritual yet grounded in the realities of modern life. So that's fantastic. I wouldn't have articulated it exactly in that way, but it's fascinating to hear the computer play back, given all these inputs and years. This is literally 2 decades worth of Dharma talks that I've been a part of, and play it back in those finite nuggets, because it actually makes you look at your own practice in a slightly different way. It's a cool lens to put it in, and I think it gives some additional dimensionality when you do stuff like this. So that's a neat trick. So shout out to when you use the same tool over time, it really learns a lot about you, and you can ask it questions and interact with it in these really fascinating ways. So to end, we're back in ChatGPT, and I want to just show quickly how I use the MyGPTs feature, which is a premium feature that I just love. And what it allows you to do is configure your own mini ChatGPT based on knowledge that you provided. So in this case, I've created a GPT based on all these transcript summaries. So I fed it the full transcripts, I did my summary, and basically the doc that has all my Dharma talk summaries for 15 years becomes the knowledge base of this GPT. And that generates on the right an actual GPT that I can ask questions to that it'll answer from the knowledge base. So I can feed it anything, but I've provided some sample questions here. So let's start with an easy one, like what is enlightenment and how can I become enlightened? Let's see what it says. Ah, very nice. Okay, cool. So it gives me some definition. What is enlightenment? It references the talk that it came from, an important thing, because I was getting a ton of questions on, hey, do you remember there was this talk in like 2011, maybe about this topic? So this is a way that people can also find things that are hidden in this archive. But it basically gives me an answers and it cites the reference where it found it to. So how can I become enlightened? Meditation and mind training, that's great. Bodhicitta, which is compassion practice. Overcoming ego, desire, and attachment, nice simple things like that. The role of a teacher, very important. Discipline and devotion, absolutely. Letting go of the chase, very good Zen answer there. So this is great, and it gives you a nice summary, and I can ask it additional follow-up questions. So it becomes a way for that knowledge base, instead of just being a static document that I can control F, you can actually interact with it and ask questions, and actually it becomes a much more immersive experience, which is something the AI is so good at. So again, these are just cool things that I can do in April 2025. I can't even imagine what's going to be possible 6 months, 12 months from now, and how this all comes together and it can actually seamlessly work through all these sources. But until then, it's a couple step process. It saved me probably a lifetime worth of work and cut it down into something I can do in a couple of weeks. And it's something that continues to only get better and make the information that's in these archives so much more discoverable and so much more useful, especially for new generations of seekers as we go on in our mission here. So these are just some of the ways that I use ChatGPT and other AI tools to help me out in my giant archiving project. I hope it gives you benefit on your giant archiving project, and let me know if there's anything that I missed that I should check out. This is Sambhava. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.